Hi, I'm Dean Bushmiller, and this is Computer Network Principles and Practices. If you're not seeing the full version, go to expandingsecurity.com. You can also get quizzes, badges, and this mind map with all the dynamic links in it. So let's get started. When we look at computer network security, we have to break this down a little bit differently than most of the mind maps that you see with me. We're going to talk about each one of the individual layers in the OSI model, and I'm going to carve off for the TCP IP model and explain that one. But for each one of these layers, we're going to talk about the concept and use, the devices, the hardware, the media, what protocols are at that layer, what topologies may look like at those layers, because we have both virtual and physical topologies, any kind of network types that we have, what the implementation of this particular protocol or layer would look like in your environment, and sometimes we'll talk about the threats and controls. Now, there was one special section that I didn't know where to put within the presentation, and I wanted to talk about that first, which is the names of the protocol data unit at their particular layer, because this is a big thing that gets thrown around a lot, especially if you're taking any kind of exams, because they'll use the word data when they're talking about layers 5 through 7, or they'll use the word segment when we're talking about layer 4. They'll talk about packets or datagrams at layer 3, frames at layer 2, bits at layer 1. Now, my mnemonic for this was set up for me by somebody else, and so I give it to you, and that is, don't forget your SPFB at the beach. And I hope that helps you remember that. Now, this is a compression course, so we're only going to be spending probably around an hour together on this. The reality is that when I originally taught this 20 years ago, this was a 40-hour course. It was the Networking Essentials for Windows NT4 way back when. Since then, there have been a lot of books that have been produced, and I wanted to point to one that I really liked. That was this one right here. This is the Computer Network Principles, Protocols, and Practices. It really does a good job of explaining and starting from, right down to the bit and the Manchester encoding and all those kinds of things, and it goes all the way through all the different protocols. And I really like it as an original book to work with, and it is free and open source, and so that's why I point to it. I find out, and I want to thank the author very much. So I point to that as a good resource, and I put a little of my structure and their structure together for this. Also, one thing that's going to be a little different in this is I'm going to actually do a couple of demonstrations. I'm going to show you some wiring, the actual physical wires, some termination of those wires and how that works, and some of the devices that you'll see. So I hope you'll join me for the entire presentation.